What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Ringside Report MMA. Tonight, Jiri Prochazka is injured. He has vacated the UFC Light-Heavyweight title. We'll see a new champion in December. Jon Jones, is he coming back in March? Who will he fight? And Conor McGregor returning to the drug testing pool.
Let's go!
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the show. I'm Dave. There's AJ. What's up, AJ?
What's up, man? I love the dreidel song. The way it started, I love that. I was just like dancing away. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. Hey, dreidel, dreidel.
Yeah. You doing well, AJ?
Man, yeah, not bad. I'm busted up, man. Maybe it's the medications. I don't know, man. I'm high as a kite.
What are you on?
Like a couple of, like, you
You okay?
I don't know what you call it. Roboxetine or whatever it's called.
Roboxetine. What is that?
Is that what it's called? It's for the back, man. I got like a rib injury. It's been a tough week. AJ's had a rough couple of weeks. First the cold. It wasn't COVID. You were down. Freddie was down. And then I decided to, like, sprain my ribs, Muscle
Rib
spasms,
sprain.
the whole 9 yards. Yeah, ribs. Sucks, dude. But you know what? I'm here. AJ doesn't go down. I'm here, man. No matter how much pain I'm in, the show must go on.
All right.
Oh,
so
to say, man,
here.
I love the sound, man.
Yeah, it was
Christmas,
good music.
dreidel, nice.
Gotta
But
make
you
an
need like
adjustment
something
here.
like.
I'll be back.
What are you doing, bud?
I'll be
Don't leave
back.
me alone. So listen, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Report.
AJ
It's
here.
over.
Oh, God.
Dave only did it once, man, where he decided to leave the show. He was like, "Fuck this." There was a whole controversy with
No, I'm still
wrestling,
here, don't
and Dave
worry.
got upset. But you know what, Dave? I got to give you some credit, man. You're back on the news again. We actually put out a small screenshot of Dave Simon putting out his frustration with Matt Hardy and all that kind of
it's
stuff.
not frustration.
Sportskeeda. Well,
Let's be a little
Sportskeeda.
clearer
Well,
here.
Dave Simon got his I guess message sent out to the world, and they posted it. So if you go to Instagram for Ringside Report, you can see the whole article. If you go on our Twitter page, you can see the full article. And you see Dave Simon. He got upset, man. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's twice that I've seen Dave get upset. One time he walked off on the show. That was classic, man. It's like the show is over. It's done. And this time with the Matt Hardy thing, he's there, man. People are commenting.
Yeah.
Tell me what
Sorry,
happened. I don't understand.
We just had some new
Much
lights put where we had a couple of lighting
is it, The
issues, and I was
Exorcist
just
there or
fixing
what?
the lights here. See, we're fixing the lights. The studio
like-
needs, sometimes you got to do things on the fly when you're, one man.
When you're not Joe Rogan, man,
two man
and this team,
operation. And AJ's not one of the men in the operation. It's a 2-man
No, no, no,
operation, and AJ isn't one of the men doing this operation. So
No. I'm over here. I got my own problems with the lights just before the show started. But all to say is, I think it looks good on my end.
I think we're
here.
good now. I think we're
I
good
got
now.
Connor in the back. I got the Hardy.
Can I get a
Talk about
thumbs up
Hardy,
from
man.
the production crew? How do we look, baby?
You look good, man. On
Give
my
me a
end,
thumbs
you look
up.
Good.
In the chat, team.
You look
please.
good, dude.
Are we good?
You look
I think
as
we're
good as Mariah Carey today at the Thanksgiving parade.
I didn't see that.
So-
Happy Thanksgiving, by the way, to all of our American friends. I know it's a big holiday over there in the States. Canadians have our Thanksgiving in October, but of course,
This is the real one.
south of the border,
This is the real one, dude.
south of the border,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, big deal. So happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends. I hope you all had a lovely time, enjoyed yourselves in the holiday season, having a
Wait,
good
just
time
started,
here.
Dave. Take it easy, man. It's today, Thursday. They're off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Well, today is Thanksgiving, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like Thanksgiving weekend, the whole thing, man. It's like a big celebration. It's
Sure.
not just today, bud.
Well, tomorrow's Black Friday, is it not?
I
Big
guess.
shopping day.
Hopefully, listen, man, shop safe. That's all I can say. Don't be in the news. Don't do stupid things. Have fun and shop. It's not that big of a deal to get like a Nintendo, man. Listen, take it easy.
It's
Unless
not
you
that
wanna
big
buy
a deal
Ringside
to get a Nintendo. If you are shopping, you should go to merch.ringsidereport.net and get one of these cool Ringside Report Network shirts. You'll look tough and cool, just like Dave
and you
and
won't get
AJ
killed
and
for
Fred
buying.
and everybody.
That's true, man. Like that's what disturbs me a lot about like sometimes like the U.S. and their shopping sprees, man. Like it's like take it easy, man.
merch.ringsidereport.net.
You really need that shit?
No.
Exactly.
Do
Come
it
on,
online.
Ringside, buy a nice T-shirt. Do it online, man. No
I don't-
stress. You're gonna get the same deals.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that you won't get is if you go to Costco, you can't get their hot dogs. If you go to IKEA, you can't get like their dogs. You know, it's like I understand, man, but it's not worth dying for, dude. Just saying. Well, happy Thanksgiving, anyways.
Yeah, you really put a downer on the whole thing there. I mean, celebrate Black Friday if you want to go out and, hit the stores and have a good time and contribute to the consumerism and the economy and whatever. Go ahead, and that's fine. I got no problem with that
And
either. I
safe.
think that's cool. It just the crowds for me, I just couldn't bear it. But
Listen, Macy's today. Just talk about crowd. Sorry to jump in there, Dave, but the Macy's parade today was incredible. Man, that thing is like unbelievable. I mean, and the crowd was amazing, man. It was unbelievable, man. And it's like thumbs up, man. Macy's did a great job. People had fun, man. That's what we need after COVID and this bullshit. We need people to have fun, man.
that's why
Fun. That's all I'm
we're
asking.
here. We are here. We're having fun.
Yeah, we're having fun. Not Yuri. Yuri's not having fun.
Jiri Prochazka is
Connor's
not
not having fun. Connor's not having. Arthur Lobov is not having fun. There's a couple
You don't
of people
think
not
Conor
having fun. Who
McGregor's
else?
having fun? Conor McGregor's having fun. What are you talking about? This guy?
Connor's having fun, but
living
now
it
he has
up.
to go under USADA, and now he has to go to court against Arthur Lobov, a proper 12. I mean, like, Connor's having fun, but it comes with a price. I wonder if he's celebrating Thanksgiving, man, in Ireland. I don't know if they celebrate Thanksgiving.
So
American
let's
style.
talk
Where's
about
Wally
the
when
Artem
we need him?
Lobov suing Conor McGregor. So Artem Lobov, former Conor McGregor training partner, I guess former UFC fighter as well. Apparently he has filed a lawsuit against Conor McGregor
Well, yep.
because he says that he owned a percentage of Proper 12.
Well,
And he is
5%
owed
stake.
5%. He is claiming he is owed 5% of Proper 12, which was sold for $600
Mucho
million,
dineros.
according to the Irish Independent newspaper.
Mucho dineros, bud.
So, yeah,
Mucho
it's a lot
Robert
of money.
dineros.
If he is owed that 5%, I can't figure out what 5%
Big time.
of 600
But listen,
million
you know what
is, but
kills
it's
me
a
more
lot.
than that whole Dave, you know what kills me more out of that whole article?
Well,
Like,
how much
listening
is
to
that?
It's
Is
a
that
lot
six,
of money,
is
man.
that $6 million? No.
No, a lot more than that, bud.
I'm really not good at that percentages. I'm not as smart as I am sometimes.
Listen,
I don't know.
regardless of what it comes down to, it's a $600 million stake Connor has made.
You don't know
man.
what it is.
Think about it.
What's-
That's what it says, man.
What's 5%
But I'm
of
gonna tell you-
600 million? It's
Well, 10 would be 60 million. It would be, I think, 35.
that's pretty good. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, bud. But what I'm trying to say is, what I was mostly surprised by is that
though?
Lobov.
Doesn't sound right.
Lobov, it does. Lobov is not only a professional fighter that you see him and he got clipped by everybody from was it the Diaz team? Who beat him up at the last show? He got beaten up a few times. If it wasn't Diaz, it was the Khabib guys. I think it was Khabib that smacked him around. All to say is, apparently Lobov is the guy that inspired Proper 12. What I was more shocked is that Lobov has a master's degree from DCU in finance and capital markets. So I'm starting to believe that there's some possibility that Lobov had some stake in Connor's development, because what happened here is, if you read
30
the article
million.
and everything, well, I was
30
close. I said
million.
35, man.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
You know, it's actually
Took me a while.
32.5. But anyways, I'm going to tell you something. What's impressive is that Lobov, when Conor was ready to say, you know what, I don't mind opening up some kind of brand, and he was going to go into vodka, and he was going to go into with this professional strongman named Bjorson or whatever his name. I don't know who the hell the guy is. I think I know who he is, actually. I just can't say his name. But the thing is, they were going to do a vodka thing together, and then Lobov is like, why are you doing that? I did a college a paper on whiskey and all that. He goes, you should get into whiskey. You're Irish. You're Connor. Instead of going towards vodka, go towards whiskey. Connor says to him, listen, man, if you think, you already have the experience on that, get me the contacts. And Lobov went out and about, and he was traveling, and he was making contacts, and he did develop a deal with a whiskey, I guess, distributor or distiller. And
This is according to Lobov. This is Lobov's story.
this is according to Lobov, but you know, it kind of makes sense. There's some sense. He went out and he did get it. Where Conor did get the deal going and offered Lobov $1 million, and Lobov was like, no, you know, let's like this thing is worth billions. Like, you know, I'll take a stake out of it. Like at some point. All to say is that Conor did offer him $1 million for all the work that he did, which is a lot of money, my friend. He doesn't make that in the UFC. I can assure you, he doesn't make it in bare knuckles fighting. Lobov didn't take that $1 million. So what transpired after that, we don't know. But all we could say is this: is that Lobov might have something there, man. I'm just saying, Conor. Listen, man, Conor, just give him like, I don't know if he wants to give him $30 million, but that could be a dent in his, you know, his
yeah.
bumper
Well,
12.
the thing is, with all that, and Lobov may have done work for Conor and may have helped facilitate proper 12, but that doesn't necessarily entitle him to any kind of money. Just because you do a favor for your friend and do some things for him and help him do things doesn't mean you're entitled to $30 million when he sells this company for $600 million. That's not really how things work. He's got to have, you know, in writing somewhere that he owns 5% of proper 12 Irish whiskey. And if he doesn't have that, then I think he's going to be shit out of luck.
But apparently he does have an agreement. That's why these lawyers have got involved. Apparently he has a 5%.
I hope for him that he does,
stake.
You know?
If he does, man, it's like, you know, you're looking at about $2.5 million in his pocket, which is a lot more than $1 million. But let's just say there's nothing in writing and it was just like, you know, a shake or a verbal agreement or whatever. You know, look, Conor, at that point there, give the guy $1 million and that's it, man. Give the guy $1 million and that's it. You know, if he did the hard work and all that, look, his fighting career is not going to go any further than it is now.
Aren't you telling me that Conor offered him $1 million and he turned it down, and now he's suing for $30 million? So I don't know if he'd take $1 million at this point if he thinks he can get 30. Right?
Listen, in any contract agreement, if there's like legitimacy in there and it's pretty concrete, and depending on like the futures of the product or whatnot, if there's something in there that makes sense for the legal team, man, you better believe they're going to go after that 5% stake on the $600 million sellout. And you know what? But the thing with Conor is now he's also involved in another thing. He's involved in a new beer product. I just saw it a couple of days ago. They have like the Instagram out. He's involved with a new beer type of Conor product, which apparently looks like, you know, people like it, but it's only sold in one brewery in Ireland. I wish Wally was here to be able to give us an update, but Conor is looking, you know, more and more towards the business side, which I'm kind of surprised now after hearing that he's going to.
Oh, come on. You're not surprised. This is USADA this is what he's doing. Yeah, okay. But let's be real about Conor McGregor's fighting future. I'm surprised, man. He should be sticking to the business. He should be trying to grow his income because his fighting future is a lot shorter than maybe AJ would lead you to believe, but I'm telling you, it's not going to be a long career, and it's not going to be successful for a long time. We'll see how he goes when he comes back. As far as his business and the whiskey and all of that with Lobov, I just think it's disappointing that we have a guy here, Artem Lobov, a longtime training partner, longtime friend of Conor McGregor, associated with Conor McGregor.
Took a beating.
And now it seems like there's a serious rift between those two guys with lawsuits and stuff like that. And Conor was always the guy who was preaching, you know, sticking with the same team and the same gym and the same partners and the same coaches. And now one of his closest sparring partners is suing him for $30 million. You know, it's just not what Conor McGregor was all about. He would criticize other fighters for leaving their home gym and moving to the States to go and train at one of the big gyms or something like that. And he said, I'll never do that. I stay at my gym. They don't have belief in it. And Conor, I mean, he's still staying at that gym, but he's got one of his longtime sparring partners now suing him for a bunch of money. It's odd to see. The whole Conor McGregor story has been odd. And I think the latest one here from Conor McGregor, also weird. Here is a tweet from Conor McGregor yesterday where he says, I am clear for testing in February. I will complete my 2 tests per USADA, and we are booking a fight. Now, that's not exactly how things work, and that isn't really a sign of anything. And, well, if it's a sign of anything, it's how come you can't get drug tested now? Because for those that don't know, if you want to fight in the UFC, you have to be in the USADA drug testing pool. You have to be drug tested by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, which oversees all the drug testing for the UFC. And you have to be in that drug testing program for 6 months before you can fight in the UFC. So Conor is saying that he will re-enter the testing pool in February, and starting at that point, 6 months from February, he'll be able to book a UFC fight. So March, April, August 2023 would be when Conor McGregor could potentially fight. August of 2023. Now, if he were to enter the USADA testing pool now, today, he'd be able to fight much earlier now, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah.
So the question then arises, why is the ever-growing, ever more muscular and heavier Conor McGregor not entering the testing pool now? Why is he only going to be, as he puts it, clear for testing in February? Clear for testing. Like you have to clear something out of your system before you can get drug tested so you don't pop dirty?
Jon Jones?
That's what it sounds like to me. Because if I were a UFC fighter that was anxious to get back in the UFC, I would say, drug test me now, Uncle Dana, and book me a fight 6 months from now. But that's not what Conor's doing. Conor McGregor, at the end of November, is saying, give me the rest of this month, December, and all of January to clear my system of whatever, and then test me in February, and then I'll be serious, and then 6 months from then I'll be able to fight in the UFC, because those are the rules. You have to be tested 6 months before you can fight in the UFC. So if he's going to do his first test in February, it means he can't fight until 6 months after that. Whereas if he were to be tested now, he could fight 6 months from now.
So, you know what, Dave?
Suspicious.
I can't blame Jon Jones all the time as Mr. Picogram. Now I got to start calling Conor Mr. Conor Pico, man. I mean, the guy is so jacked, man. There's
You put
no
a
way
thing on our
in hell.
Instagram, didn't you? About how huge he was?
Man. You know how many, we got, so many hits on that thing? It was ridiculous.
Because he looks crazy.
People were coming out of the woodwork. We had, thousands and thousands of, people coming in and looking at this picture and commenting on this picture. I mean, the guy is – take a look at this, guys. Look at this. 145, 155, what the hell is this guy on? That's what it is.
205. 205 Conor.
He doesn't – I would say – Dave, I'd say 205 myself, man.
The guy looks like Alex Pereira.
Bigger. Look at his shoulders, dude. The guy
ridiculous.
looks like one of these these Greek statues, man, carved out. I mean, this guy here is look at his jawline. Look at Conor's jawline.
Look at the veins up here. Look how vascular. Look how vascular this guy is, pal.
Look at the wings. Look at the wings from the bird, how much they spread apart.
Ridiculous.
But look at Dave. What kills me is take a look at Conor's jawline. That's what freaks me out the most.
Oh yeah,
his whole face has changed, man.
Yeah,
we're talking that's a. How can I put it this way?
His head's bigger. His head is bigger. He's got Barry Bonds syndrome. Look at him.
Yeah, he does, man. The jawline gave it away, man. It's Picogram. I can't even say Jon Jones has a jawline like this, man. Conor has gone past Jon Jones. I can't believe I'm saying that. But I'm telling you, man.
He looks like a different guy.
Look at Conor. Look at 145, I remember Conor. But 155 is when I remember Conor the most like as
Yeah.
Conor. At 170,
That's
I'm
Conor.
like,
Who's
Yeah.
this guy?
who is this guy? Who's the imposter, man? But remember, he has a
Insane.
titanium leg as well. I mean, this guy, man. I mean, you know what? Either Conor's going to come back into the UFC and make some crazy noise, or it's going to be like the return and like disappearance of Conor, where he's going to be like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to like concentrate on proper 12.
I mean,
You know, but
a great way to heal from injuries, a lot of guys say, is steroids. I
Sure,
mean, it's
man.
just plain and simple. It helps you heal faster from injury. And Conor had a devastating injury, and he wanted to heal fast and also be jacked, and he's super jacked now.
oh, jacked he is, man. That's Jack in a box right back of me here. That's Conor 155. Now I got to bring out the Incredible Hulk if I have to. Like here, I got Conor
He's a
here.
beast
Here's
now.
Look. Here we go. Here's Conor like today. This is Conor, ladies and gentlemen. Green and mean. No pun intended there from Ireland. But listen, man, it's going to be interesting, dude. It's going to be an interesting year. We're going to have Jon Jones coming into heavyweight. We're going to have Conor McGregor going into light heavyweight. We're going to be like seeing a lot of craziness, man, in the UFC in 2023. It's still not over. It's been a great year for the UFC. 2022 has been like a record breaker for the UFC. I mean, they're just on fire, man. Above all sports, you know, it's ridiculous. But you know, Conor's still in the picture, man. And I'm telling you, every time Conor's there, he stirs up like a hornet's nest. And he's not over yet. Now he's actually insulted. Like, I don't know if you heard the whole controversy with Paddy Pimblett and the guy from the champion from AEW. That whole thing, MJF.
Yeah, of course.
Like calling. Yeah. So what happens is he's calling.
I've got
Paddy
a recent
Pimblett,
picture
like,
of Conor McGregor. This is Conor McGregor yesterday.
Let's take a look at this.
He's really changed, man. Look at that jawline.
I'm telling you, man. Like he doesn't change like year to year. He changes like day to day, man.
Yep, man.
Holy
He's looking
smokes,
crazy
look at
now.
Conor. Man, and he's got his hair long again. He's clean shaven.
Yeah.
I remember Conor when he used to look a lot different. He used to look like a very different lad.
He's got some
Now
pretty
he's
big
looking like
abs there. Big abs on
Wow,
Conor.
man. Look at this guy, man.
Amazing.
Well, Conor.
That's actually Lex Luger, former pro wrestler Lex Luger.
Well, that's
The
what I'm
total
getting at with.
package.
Listen, Lex Luger was amazing, but like
was
right now,
amazing.
that's what I'm talking about. The AEW champion MJF, who insulted like Paddy Pimblett, calling him a dollar store Conor McGregor, and then Conor actually on our Instagram page. I don't know if you saw it on the Ringside Instagram page. If you can show it, Conor responds back, and if you want to show it, like you can say it. But Conor and MJF are gonna have a little.
I didn't
beef
see
soon.
that. I don't see anything on our Instagram page.
Yeah, not Instagram. Sorry, our Twitter page. I apologize. It's on our Twitter page. If you go to our Twitter page for Ringside, you'll see the whole comment from Conor. I mean, Conor is in a lot of like stories this week, you know, and so is the AEW. So is Dave Simon. So is Matt Hardy.
Yeah, I don't know. You were positioning that in a weird way. I wasn't mad at Matt Hardy. I think you misunderstood my comment. I was just saying Matt Hardy was comparing because last night AEW did a show in Chicago, and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were there wrestling the Death Triangle in a tremendous match. Dynamite last night was fantastic. It was really
You're dynamite.
a very, very good wrestling show. Really enjoyed watching it on a Wednesday night. Fantastic. AEW is doing very well. And so the Elite, the Kenny Omega and the Bucks, they got into a fight, a real backstage fight with CM Punk, right? And CM Punk is basically persona non grata within AEW, and it seems like he may never return, although it's possible he will return, right? So CM Punk is from Chicago. So people in Chicago, I guess, were resentful of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega because they feel that, you know, they were in opposition to Punk, and he's the reason why he's no longer in AEW, right? They are the reason why they don't have their hometown hero there. And Matt Hardy tweeted out, it's like Shawn Michaels in Canada, which Shawn Michaels screwed Bret Hart. Well, Vince and Shawn and Triple H and others screwed Bret the Hitman Hart in 1997 at the Survivor Series. And Shawn Michaels was hated by the Canadian fans for years afterwards. And I just commented to Matt Hardy that I don't think it's the same. Shawn Michaels was hated in Canada years after the fact. This happened in 1997. There's a famous promo where Shawn Michaels is in Montreal, and I was in the building for that. And let me tell you, I don't know if I've ever felt more hatred from 20,000 people directed towards one man. It was quite something. And so people really hated Shawn Michaels, and this was in 2005. So this was 8 years later. People were still holding the grudge. I was still holding a grudge. We hated Shawn Michaels in 2005. And to this day, people, especially Montreal wrestling fans and Canadian wrestling fans, diehard Bret Hart fans, still hold that grudge to Shawn Michaels. Even my own buddy, Johnny North, resents Shawn Michaels, can't say anything nice about Shawn Michaels because he holds a grudge for what he did to Bret Hart, which I can understand, too, because what Shawn did was really crossing the line of being able to trust your opponent in there. You're supposed to trust your opponent. Your opponent is your partner in the ring. You're trusting him with your body, and Shawn Michaels screwed Bret Hart in a real way there. So it wasn't cool what he did to Bret. But I was just commenting to Matt Hardy, I doubt that the Young Bucks and Kenny will be booed in Chicago in the year 2030. Like in 8 years. The grudge won't be there. It's not the same. So that got picked up. But he is pretty popular. That quote got picked up and turned into an article apparently on Sportskeeda, which is odd.
That's it. So go to our Twitter page.
I tweeted it to Matt Hardy, but I wasn't mad at Matt Hardy. Like, you're putting it like I love Matt Hardy. I got no beef with Matt Hardy. I was just saying, like, I don't know, Matt. I don't think it's gonna be the same for the Bucks and Kenny in 8 years in Chicago as it was, 8 years later with Shawn here in Montreal. So it's a slightly different. It's a very different situation. The screw job isn't the same as the brawl between Punk and the Elite. Shout out to Angelo Contagones. He's well aware of everything going on here. Angelo, a member of the team. I'm seeing a lot of membership renewals popping up on the screen. Thank you to everybody who supports the Ringside Report Network. If you are not a member yet, you can go to join.ringsidereport.net to support us. We've got a lot of wrestling programming. Speaking of Survivor Series, we will be on right after Survivor Series coming up Saturday night. This Saturday is WWE Survivor Series. I actually got a Facebook reminder saying 14 years ago you were seeing The Undertaker. I was like, oh, yeah, it was at Survivor Series 2008, 14 years ago in Boston. Yeah.
Wow.
So Survivor Series War Games taking place this Saturday night, and we will be on here, the Ringside Report Network, right afterwards to review the pay-per-view, and we will be on here tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, to preview WWE's Survivor Series 2022. So another big weekend here on the Ringside Report Network. Keeping very busy. We had the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view last weekend, and we've got WWE's Survivor Series this weekend. And then I think I get one weekend off, and then we're back in the mix for UFC 282 in Las Vegas, which brings us to our main topic of the show tonight. Jiri Prochazka.
Jiri.
And his injury. He has a serious shoulder injury. Jiri Prochazka, the UFC Light-Heavyweight champion who defeated Glover Teixeira in what I think is probably fight of the year.
Oh, well.
Fight of the year.
Man, Poirier, Chandler, man, it's a hard one.
Dude, that Glover fight was a war.
It was a war, man. There's so many wars.
It went 5 rounds.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, dude.
That's my fight of the year. Glover and Jiri, it was incredible. That's the best fight of the year. Anyways, it was crazy. Jiri finished Glover with 28 seconds left in the 5th round with a rear naked choke. They went to war. It was a battle.
Well, it was the manner of the win, too. I mean, to be able to submit Glover, to me, was worth more than a knockout. Because a knockout, we can expect it from Jiri. But a submission on Glover, one of the top, jiu-jitsu guys in the game, man, that's like, not only are you winning, but it's insult to injury, man. Like, it's a hard one for Glover to take. It's easier for Glover to take a knockout than it is to be submitted from Jiri, because no one expected Jiri to have the capabilities to do what he did. And maybe, you know what, Dave, just because of that, I might give it an edge to Fight of the Year. Just because of that.
Thank you. It was the best.
Yep.
It was the best fight this year.
You know what?
It was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. To be quite honest with you, it was one of the greatest fights in UFC history. It was amazing. I'd be surprised if that didn't win Fight of the Year from everybody. It was crazy.
Listen, not to take it away from Poirier Chandler, man. That was
a great fight.
That was very close, man.
But this, I don't know. Especially just the heart that Glover showed in the fight. And I think Glover was probably on his way to a decision win, too. It was a close fight, and I think Glover was maybe winning. We'd have to go back and watch, but it was a very exciting fight.
It was an either-or fight going to the decision at that point, I think.
So,
but, look,
the word is Jiri is out. He was supposed to fight Glover in the rematch in a couple weeks' time, December 10th at UFC 282, but he's out. He's got a shoulder injury. He's going to need surgery. He could be out for over a year with the injury and the surgery and the rehab and all of that. So, Jiri Prochazka, the UFC Light-Heavyweight champion who just won, who was about to rematch Glover, now out 2 weeks before the fight, and the Light-Heavyweight championship has now been vacated. There was talk of Glover Teixeira fighting for the championship, but he will not, because the co-main event of Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz is now the main event for the now vacant UFC Light-Heavyweight Championship. So we will see a new UFC Light-Heavyweight champion crowned December the 10th in Las Vegas at UFC 282, and it will be, as far as we know, crossing our fingers, hopefully nobody else gets hurt, right? Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz for the UFC Light-Heavyweight title. Now, just to give you all the information about Glover Teixeira, he told the Brazilian YouTube channel Super Lutas, which I really like that name. If we weren't the Ringside Report Network, I'd like to change our name to Super Lutas. He told them that he was offered Magomed Ankalaev for the title, but he turned it down because Magomed Ankalaev is a guy that he needed more time to prepare for. He wasn't confident fighting him on 2 weeks' notice. He wanted to fight him on January the 21st at UFC 283 in Brazil. So Glover said, look, I can't do this fight now. I have prepared specifically for Jiri. Magomed Ankalaev is a different test. I don't know much about him. He's also a southpaw, and Jiri is an orthodox fighter, so there's that. So Glover said, I'll fight him for the belt, but you got to give me time, and you got to give me an extra month to fight him at the next pay-per-view. And the UFC wasn't thrilled with that offer. Glover Teixeira also says to Super Lutas that he was willing to fight Jan Blachowicz for the championship at UFC 282 here in 2 weeks. But the UFC declined that because they just weren't interested in Jan Blachowicz. And I can kind of understand that. Like Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, another fight between those two. I don't know. I feel like Glover against Magomed, or even Magomed versus Jan, just to get the new blood in there, is a more interesting matchup. I don't know. If Glover versus Jan Blachowicz, what would you rather see headline UFC 282, AJ? I'll put it to you. Because I am confident with Magomed Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz as the fight. Like, I am down with that fight because, to me, Magomed is the next champ. I believe that Magomed Ankalaev will be the next UFC light heavyweight champion. I think that he can beat Jan Blachowicz. I think that he can beat Glover Teixeira. And I think that he can beat Jiri Prochazka. And I've been saying this for years now. So, I have been calling Magomed this whole time. I don't want to see Magomed taken out of the mix because I think he's that guy. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, you can't take him out. Like, if it's Jan against Glover, that means Magomed is waiting for the winner of that fight, and then, you know, I don't really want to see. I don't want to wait for Magomed to take his spot because I think it's his spot. So Glover and Yan, I'm not super thrilled with that rematch. So I'm happy with Magomed versus Yan. If it was Glover versus Magomed, I would like that more, but I understand why Glover didn't want to take Magomed on short notice. You got to prepare for a guy like that. He's very crafty. He's very good. Right? So I get that. And now we have Magomed versus Yan for the light heavyweight title. So it makes a lot of sense to me. The UFC needed a main event for UFC 282. Right? They needed something. They couldn't say, okay, Glover, you and Magomed can fight in Brazil in January, and we'll just cancel UFC 282. You know what I mean? Like, they can't do that. What do you do if you push Glover and Magomed to January in Brazil? You have Jan Blachowicz fight himself in the main event? What is that? And the co-main event, I think, is like Paddy Pimblett now. It was, right, Magomed and Yan, but now it's Pimblett and somebody. And that can't be the main event. So you needed a light heavyweight title fight for the main event. Pimblett and Jared Gordon. That's not a main event of a pay-per-view. Jan Blachowicz, Magomed Ankalaev for the now vacant light heavyweight title. That's a main event of a pay-per-view. Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira for the light heavyweight title, I think could main event a pay-per-view, but it stops the progress of the division because I think Magomed is the number one guy, and he should have a chance to prove it. And we've been around, Yan is 39, Glover's 42. Like, we kind of been around with those guys. They've won the title, they lost the title. Let's see somebody else in there. So it was Magomed to main event this card once Jiri went out, and Magomed versus Yan or Glover. It didn't really matter. And that was the UFC's perspective too, and I'm happy that it was because I think that's the right call. As much as I love Glover Teixeira, I'm a big fan. Jan Blachowicz, they're all great fighters. But I think it's Magomed's time, and I think he had to main event this pay-per-view. So it sucks about Jiri, though, man, because that guy, taking him out of action for a year and a bit and a serious injury. Ooh, excuse me.
Bless you there, COVID. But I'm going to tell you something.
Serious injury like that, could, when he comes back, who knows if he's the same? It's disappointing. Well, thankfully, he's only 30 years old, Jiri Prochazka, so he has time left in his career. I mean, Glover's 42 and still going.
But, Dave, that's the thing. Like, when these guys get these weird injuries or whatnot in training camp, we've seen it time and time again. I mean, we've seen it, like, I don't want to go to, like, Johnny Walker and things like that, who was an up-and-coming star, man. He was there, and then he got hurt. Shoulder injury, never was the same. Anderson Silva, leg kick, broken leg, never the same. We can say the same thing for Conor in a sense. But that's the thing with Jiri. It's an unfortunate injury. If it's anything that's, 6 to 8 weeks, it won't take away from your fighting capabilities. When it's a minimum of 6 months to a year off, that means you're not training for 6 to 12 months. You've got problems. And then you got to restart that training camp. You got to get back to where you left off. Yeah. You don't have the same timing. We all know that.
Your progress is stopped too. Like all the progress that you're making, you're getting better, you're improving, your things are clicking, you're going, and then all of a sudden you get hurt and then the door is shut and you can't.
And the game is over. It could be over. And I don't want to say that because we've seen that come in. Like, look at Dominic Reyes, man, who came in to fight Jon Jones. Look how good he was going up, leading up to Jon Jones. Look where he is today. I mean, the guy is not the same fighter. Injuries do take effect, but, it's a shame with Jiri because he's just at the point where he could have been a good, strong name for the UFC.
But I wouldn't count Jiri out right now. I mean, George St. Pierre blew his knee out twice during his UFC welterweight championship run, had ACL surgery, and the whole deal, was out for a year, came back better than ever every time. I mean, you could come back from injury and be better, even. It's possible.
You could. George is a good example. You're absolutely right.
George is kind of an outlier in MMA because he's George St. Pierre and he's kind of a Superman type person.
It's hard to compare to a guy like George, man.
It's hard to compare, but Jiri's a beast, man. I'm not saying he's George St. Pierre, but he's a monster. So I can see him come back and be successful. I'm just saying it sucks that he gets hurt
be a long
now
time.
when he's the champion and the momentum is in his favor. But when he comes back, he'll fight for the belt, and he might win it. He might. But if he
Dave,
fights Magomed Ankalaev, see, that's the thing.
It's gonna be.
That's the thing.
That's a tough one.
Fighting Magomed, who probably beats Jan Blachowicz here, right? Then fights Glover Teixeira at some point middle next year, beats him, and then by the end of next year or early 2024, then Jiri comes back, and he's fighting a game-ready, tested champion in Magomed Ankalaev.
Yep.
Tough. It's
Good
a
luck.
tough comeback fight. It's a tough comeback fight. If I'm Jiri, I'm rooting against Magomed because I don't want to see him at the end of that road.
Unless Jiri takes a fight other than the belt. I mean, he could, like a warm-up fight, but it's hard because you lose that, your game is, you know what I mean, your stock is done. I mean, he could come in against Magomed, which I'm pretty sure. Listen, before I get to that, I just wanted to say is before the beginning of the year, we predicted 3 future champions. We predicted Islam, we predicted Magomed, and we predicted Khamzat. And I'm telling you, Magomed is coming in, and he will be the champion. We called that. So 2 out of 3 so far are the champions before the end of 2023. And that's where you're getting, like what you were saying with Jiri. It's going to be so tough to a guy that we predicted. And you were talking about him years before he was even close to any like contention level whatsoever. He wasn't even a name at that point. And you said, keep your eye on this guy, Magomed. And I did. And I'm like, holy shit, what is this? You know, he's a beast. He's a southpaw. And he is just dangerous, man. You're talking like Dagestanian, like animals, man. These guys, and here he is. He's going to be the next champion, you know, coming up very shortly. And that's what you got to face. Man, oh, man, it's not a good – I feel sorry for Jiri, you know. But, look, if things go sour, at least he was the champ. You know, for a short period of time, he was a champ. And it was probably the fight of the year. You can always have that on his, like, you know, resume. But it's going to be tough, dude. You know, Magomed is only going to get better.
You and I did predict Magomed Ankalaev back in January to be the UFC Light-Heavyweight champion by the end of the year. It was looking like it wasn't going to happen because he was on the co-main event of this card, but now Jiri gets hurt and our predictions come through. Fred did predict Jiri Prochazka to be the UFC Light-Heavyweight champion by the end of the year, so he kind of got it right, but then, you know, Yuri's going to be out of there. But yeah, we did predict quite a few champions. You know, we predicted Volkanovski would hold on to the belt, Magomed. We all thought Israel Adesanya would be champion by the end of the year, and he is not. We all thought Khamzat, actually you and I thought Khamzat would be champion by the end of the year. Fred went with Kamaru Usman. We're all wrong on that. We all predicted Islam Makhachev to be the lightweight champion of the world by the end of the year, and that happened.
Yep.
Volkanovski. We all thought Petr Yan would be the welterweight champion, or sorry, bantamweight champion. Wrong on that one.
I didn't go on that, Dave.
Yes, you did. Yes,
you
did,
sure about
AJ.
that?
Yeah, I have it. I have a document here saved from January.
Yeah. Okay.
You have Petr Yan.
All right.
Yeah. We were wrong on
Listen,
some accounts, but we were right on a lot of them. We predicted quite a few new champions by the end of the year, which is pretty good. And Magomed Ankalaev, I am still predicting, will be the light heavyweight champion by the end of the year, and he will be fighting Jan Blachowicz in 2 weeks' time at UFC 282 in the main event for the light heavyweight title, and we will definitely be doing a watch-along for that one, December 10th on that Saturday night. Very excited to see my man Magomed Ankalaev climb to the top and become, finally, the UFC light heavyweight champion. And like AJ said, I have been talking about Magomed Ankalaev for years now. Years.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw, I mean, it's only been maybe 3 or 4 years, but back in 2018 when I saw him fight in the UFC, you could tell there was something special about this guy. He can grapple, he can strike, he can do it all. And he was young, with a good record. This guy is an absolute monster. He lost his first fight in the UFC to Paul Craig, and that's the only fight that he's ever lost. He was beating up Paul Craig pretty good, and then Paul Craig, who's got tremendous jiu-jitsu, managed to pull off a triangle choke, with 1 second left in the third round. If Magomed would have hung on, he would have won by decision. But I guess he was unaware of how much time he had left, and he tapped, and he lost the fight to Paul Craig. Since then,
that was a crazy fight.
Magomed Ankalaev has won 9 in a row in the UFC, undefeated since that fight. Just crushing
and no offense,
his opponent.
and no offense to Paul Craig, Dave. I mean, Paul Craig is an exciting fighter, man. He's got all the skills to be where he is. But if he fights again, Magomed, it's not happening. I mean, it was an unfortunate loss.
2018, I told you he would be the light heavyweight champion of the world. He was coming. It was only a matter of time. And every single time he fought, I said, pick him. He is a lock.
Like the Three Kings at Christmas, man. You're right.
Every single time for years we've been making money off Magomed Ankalaev. Once again, pick him against Yan. He's going to win. For years, AJ. That's what's really, it's quite satisfying for me, because this is the guy that I have been, and I don't talk about guys like that for years out and say, oh, this is the guy who'll be champion. It doesn't really happen very often. With Magomed Ankalaev, there was just something about this guy where I said, he is really good. You know, if you see him fight, you know what's going on.
Listen, man, I agree with you. And I was saying at the same time, when you were saying Magomed, I was talking about Cyril Gane. And I was on the money on that one, man, because Cyril Gane was not even in the UFC, and he came, and he almost beat Ngannou. If he would have won that 5th round, he would be the champion right now. I was so close. I was just 3 minutes away from predicting it. We called it both. I called Cyril Gane before anybody was talking about him. Rogan and all the rest of the crew, no one was talking about Cyril Gane.
Well, they didn't know him. We saw him fighting TKO here.
Man? Oh, look, these guys see other fights. To say that this guy has the skills to be in the UFC and be a future heavyweight champion, AJ called it. I took a picture with this guy, and I said, Cyril, man, let me
AJ,
hold your belt at the time.
But AJ, he didn't win.
But it doesn't matter, because if they fight again, I'm still going with that. The Three Kings at Christmas. I think Cyril Gane is going to be much more prepared, and he will beat Francis. I don't care what anybody says, because he almost beat him in the last one. Cyril Gane is no joke.
It was a very close fight. It was 2-2 in the 5th round, and Francis did what he needed to do with a big takedown to win the fight.
That experience, yeah, he got him with that experience.
One takedown.
I guess, yeah, he did. That's it. That's all it took, But Cyril, man, he has the skills to have been able to submit a guy like Francis. The thing, shit happens, but again, we were the only show on all networks across, man. The big box media, shows to anybody else. Ringside Report was the first ones to say Magomed, Cyril Gane in the same breath years before they ever entered into anyone's thoughts.
We know how to call them.
We know how to call them, man. Sometimes it doesn't work in our favor, but you know what? They get to the big show, man. And, there's so many other fighters too,
But what I like is that we're the only ones calling them years out. There are guys like Islam Makhachev. We see him and you're like, yeah, okay, for sure. He's going to be the next guy. Look at him. Look at what he's doing. And everybody sees it. But it's the guys like Magomed or Cyril Gane where we're like, hey, that guy. And he doesn't get a lot of hype. Like Magomed Ankalaev is not a household name in MMA. A lot of people in MMA are still not too familiar with this guy. But we have been on that Magomed train for a long time now.
Look, and there's other fighters that I called out, from the past. I said, you know what? These guys are going to make a wave in the UFC. Paddy Pimblett is one of them. Paddy the Baddy, when I first saw him come in, I said, this guy here has something about him that he's so
marketable. You better stay away from MJF, though. MJF's eat him for breakfast.
Paddy's going to smash him like a burger, man.
No way.
On a Sunday at
MJF is better than Paddy, and Paddy knows it.
Hey, man, listen, show the Twitter comment from Connor. Connor says, who is this clown? He doesn't even know who he is. Listen, man, don't mess with Paddy, man. Don't mess with Paddy.
Connor doesn't know who Paddy is or doesn't know who MJF is?
No, he doesn't know who MJF is. He goes, don't let this guy, talk to you like that. He's who is this clown? So, that's Connor for you.
I can believe that Connor doesn't know who MJF is. He's the new AEW world champion, okay? He's a world champion, unlike Conor McGregor or Paddy Pimblett. How about that?
Yeah, Conor was a champ.
He beat John Moxley at Full Gear. He may have received some help with William Regal's brass knuckles That definitely did happen.
Brass knuckles.
Brass knuckles. MJF got some help there, but hey.
Israel
MJF
knows
has
about
help.
brass knuckles.
If MJF has help from Paddy Pimblett's countryman there, William Regal, again, brass knuckles to the face, Paddy Pimblett's going down. All right? That was funny when Conor McGregor was like, I'll go at all the WWE guys. Conor was going after WWE guys. Paddy Pimblett's kind of like the second version of Conor, and he's going after the AEW guys. You know, it's like a different generations.
Listen, man, and that's what the beauty about the fighting sports right now. Like, there's so much hybrid between different organizations and whatnot and fighters. It's like a soap opera, man. That doesn't stop, and it's so exciting, And I'm saying even boxing for that matter too. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, and I said it a few times. I know Angelo's going to say, "Oh no, AJ, here he goes again. He's going to be talking shit."
Here
about
we
Jake
go.
Paul.
He's going to talk about Logan Paul and how much Logan Paul.
Listen, Jake,
no, I don't want to talk about those guys.
I was the first one to call this guy. He would change the face of sports, and he did. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. He changes the face of sports. Logan Paul changes the face of sports. But somehow or another, they're all connected in some way. And it makes it kind of interesting, It makes it interesting, dude. You don't see this in hockey or basketball or whatever. I mean, it's not the same, man. I'm just saying. It's not the same.
Speaking of your boy Logan Paul, look at this.
What's happening with it?
It's a cool action figure that's coming out. I know you want this.
He has an
Christmas.
action figure?
Yeah, it's a Logan Paul action figure. WWE.
Wow, man.
Logan Paul action figure. I know you want that.
Is that crazy or what, man?
There you go.
Man, he's got the Hogan headband and everything, man.
The Logan Paul. With all the cool
Hogan
gear.
Paul now.
Hogan Paul. That's a good one. There it is.
Wow, man. I can't believe how much are they selling that for?
I think this one's pretty expensive. It's a higher end action figure.
See, I told you, man. AJ knows what he's talking about. See, I
this
told
is a
you,
WWE thing.
Listen, man, even Angelo has to admit, 3 years ago, you would have never thought that this guy would make any professional combat sport. And here he is today, ready for Christmas to be bought by a lot of good kids in the world. The Logan Paul.
Apparently, the figure's available on MattelCreations.com only, exclusive to MattelCreations.com. It goes on sale tomorrow.
I know you're buying it, dude.
Goes on sale tomorrow at noon. And the estimated ship and release date is October 2023. So you buy it tomorrow, and you have to wait till October of next year to get it.
Jesus, man. That's how popular this guy is. I'm sure you will. I have a feeling Dave Simon will.
I'm tempted to. I honestly am tempted to because he's a character. He's a historical figure at this point.
And let's say he becomes champion in the future, which I say that it possibly will happen.
Champion of what?
That's going to be worth a lot of money. Pro wrestling, man.
Oh, maybe. I mean, you did predict it to happen at the last pay-per-view there where he wrestled Roman Reigns, and it did not happen at all. I told you were crazy for thinking it was going to happen, and it didn't.
But I told you, listen, even though he lost, I said that Logan Paul would become champion at some point, which means that he was fighting for a title, dude. Who would have thought that years ago? At any point, anyways. Here he is, man. He's there, and he's actually pretty good, man. Listen, man, when I saw him fighting, he is pretty good. I mean, look, he's a former wrestler, in his college days or whatnot. But the thing is that he does have athletic and acrobatic capabilities, and he has that persona in the ring. The guy has what it takes to be a pro wrestler. Even Johnny North will agree. The guy has it, and he's actually exciting to watch. When I was watching his match, you can't actually hate him. You're actually it's one of these guys that you're gonna actually end up liking, man. Listen, kudos to him. The Ringside Report said it first.
All right, so Jon Jones.
Picogram.
Rumored to be coming back UFC 285 March the 4th in Las Vegas. There's a report coming out on MMA Junkie that says that the UFC is looking to book Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou, UFC 285 on March the 4th. However, Francis Ngannou is not the penciled-in opponent. It seems like Jon Jones will be returning March 4th at UFC 285. We will see the return of Jon Jones March 4th, 2023. Finally, the king is back. The lion of MMA, Jon Jones, is back. Now, will he fight UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou? There are a couple hurdles there. Is Francis medically ready after his knee injury? Is he ready to come back? And the other hurdle is Francis Ngannou and the UFC are in contract negotiations, contract disputes, really. Francis doesn't have a contract with the UFC. So until that gets settled, they're in a strange situation with their heavyweight champion where he may or may not fight. If he's medically ready to fight but can't come to a deal with the UFC, then they may say, okay, forget it, Francis. We're stripping you of the belt, and you can go off and box whatever, do whatever. But if they can't come to an agreement with Francis Ngannou for some reason, which really hope they don't get to that point, but if they can't, you can see Jon Jones fighting somebody else for a vacant heavyweight title, right?
Cyril Gane. Just saying.
Cyril Gane is throwing his name out there. Cyril Gane has said he's ready to fight in March, whatever. So Cyril Gane is a potential opponent, and he is apparently a guy that the UFC is considering. It's a rumor at this point.
I knew it.
Curtis Blades is the other one who may be in line to get the crack at Jon Jones. So UFC, I think plan A is Francis Ngannou, and then plan B would be either Gane or Blades. I don't know who's plan B or plan C between Blades or Gane, but I think AJ has his vote, of course. I think AJ's vote would be Gane versus Jones over Francis for some reason, even though Francis is the heavyweight champion. That's the bigger fight. AJ's just a Cyril Gane fan, so he can't help it.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying stylistically,
you just got to be honest. You got to be honest,
It'll be a better fight.
Francis and Jon Jones is the bigger fight pay-per-view wise. That makes the most money for the UFC, for everybody.
If Jon Jones, well, for sure he's the champion, but if Jon Jones is able to take that belt, it'll be like unbelievable. I mean, it'll be insane. I mean, like the stock of the UFC is just going to fly up. But if you're going to look at a better fight, in my opinion, would be against a guy like Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane, Jones, it'll just be a better fight, like stylistically, in my opinion. I just think the range, the speed, the way that Cyril Gane moves, I mean, like he moves like a light heavyweight, and Jon Jones is going up to heavyweight. I mean, he's not going to lose his capabilities. I don't think so. Maybe there could be some issues with like added muscle and things like that. Maybe his timing is not going to be as it was at light heavyweight. But again, it's Jon Jones. This guy is dangerous, and I would rather see a fight between him and Cyril Gane, which could be a really interesting fight. But if he gets Francis Ngannou and takes the belt, man, then it'll be a more hype fight for me to see Cyril Gane going after Jon Jones and taking that belt back.
How
and to
is
be honest,
Francis Ngannou not the more interesting fight to you? I don't understand. Francis Ngannou has ridiculous power. He has the mightiest of hands. He could crush Jon Jones with a single strike, and you don't want to see whether or not Jon Jones goes down? You don't want to see whether or not Francis Ngannou could be the first guy in UFC history to knock Jon Jones unconscious? I want to see if he can do it. That, to me, is the biggest fight. The heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed Francis, by God, Ngannou against Johnny Bones Muscles Jones. Bones and muscles now because he's gigantic. Used to be Johnny Bones. Now he's bones and muscles and muscles and muscles and muscles. The guy is huge now. Can he stand up to the task of a Francis Ngannou? Can he deal with it? He's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. You don't believe me? Just ask him. Or ask Khabib. But ask Jon Jones, because he'll definitely tell you. He's very hung up on being looked at as the greatest of all time. Undefeated in the UFC. Crushed legend after legend after legend. No one could take the light heavyweight title from him except himself. And he did take it away from himself a couple of times. However, no opponent ever stood a chance against this man. Daniel Cormier, obliterated. Shogun Rua, destroyed. Lyoto Machida, Alexander Gustafsson, Dominic Reyes, all defeated by the legend of Jon Jones. And I want to see him fight Francis because I want to see the legend grow. Beating Cyril Gane means jack shit to the legend and the mystique of Jon Jones. You could boo me all you want. I am a Cyril Gane fan just like you, but I'm also living in the real world where I recognize that Cyril Gane has just lost the title fight. Cyril Gane does not have the name value that Francis Ngannou has, and it doesn't mean as much for Jon Jones to beat a Cyril Gane at this stage in the game. What Jon Jones needs to do is beat the big bad wolf, Francis Ngannou. If he can come up to heavyweight 3 years removed from his last mixed martial arts fight and defeat the meanest, scariest, most deadly UFC heavyweight champion we have ever seen, if Jon Jones can come up and do that, then he is not only the greatest of all time, he's by far the greatest of all time, and no one should ever debate it ever again. If he can come up and beat Ngannou, he's not just the best, he's the undisputed, pound for pound, #1 mixed martial arts fighter in the history of the game, and it'll be really, really hard for anybody to come close. So, you're telling me Cyril Gane, he's cool. He's not the champion. He's not the scariest guy in the division. He doesn't have that big name. Francis Ngannou has that big name. Francis Ngannou is scary. Francis Ngannou is who you build your legacy off of. And if Jon Jones can beat that guy, forget it. And if he can't, then he can't. And that's fine. And it's Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is the betting favorite in a potential fight there. Not a huge favorite, but still the favorite. And that makes sense to me too. I get it. We haven't seen Jon Jones in a while. But, you know, I know you're a Cyril Gane fan and you're a Francis Ngannou fan and you're a hater of Jon Jones. But you know me.
No, I'm actually going the other way. Listen,
as
Dave,
much as he's disappointed me over the years with the arrests and the disturbing behavior and everything that he's done.
Shooting at the homeless guy.
I'm a fan of the man in the octagon. Right? That guy that crawls into the cage is a bad motherfucker that I love. I love him. He is incredible. I was at the first Gustafsson fight. I was at the fight where he choked Machida out with the standing guillotine and then dropped him unconscious. I was at the fight where he won the title from Shogun and he obliterated him back in 2011 when he won his first championship. I was at the fight where he got his arm broke by Vitor and kept fighting and submitted him in the 4th round with an Americana. I was at these legendary Jon Jones performances. He has amazed me in the octagon like no fighter I have ever seen before or since. There's nobody like Jon Jones in the cage. Jon Jones out of the cage, he's got some problems. Jon Jones in the cage is the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. He's the greatest. I can't imagine being that good at fighting. It's natural to him. He's so good. His understanding of range and movement and timing and just deadly effectiveness in the moment, finding the spot. Fuck, he's good. I love Jon Jones. And I hate Jon Jones. But I don't really hate him. I'm disappointed. But I love him. That's how much I love the octagon fighter. I can't hate the man no matter what he does. No matter what he does.
Don't hold back, Dave. Don't hold back. Let it all out. But Listen, man, I'm going to say
Give
one
it to
thing.
me.
If he fights Ngannou, and you're right, man, everything you said about Jon Jones is absolutely correct. I might like diss Jones, more for his out of the octagon shenanigans, but the truth is, in the octagon, he's a master. And the thing is that it's too bad he can't well, sometimes he does. He's getting better and whatnot, but going to the Francis Ngannou fight, where I can see Francis having a hard time is if Jones is able to control him in the clinch, it's going to be a bad night for Francis. Because Jon Jones, what scares me the most is his elbows. And if this guy is able to connect on Francis, he'll cut him up, man, like Edward Scissorhands, and it's going to be a bad night for Francis. And that's where I think Jon Jones is going to beat up Francis. Probably not with a knockout, maybe not with a submission, but he's going to wear and tear him in the clinch game and drop those heavy knees and drop those thunderous elbows that will change the game. I think that's where Jon Jones will win. And look,
cut him
not
up,
to take away from
take
Francis,
him down.
He's going to cut him up.
Cut him up,
but he might
and then little trips, little Jon Jones, little trips, take Francis down. You get on top of Francis, Jon Jones top game.
You're
good night. Good night.
And that's what I'm saying is that it's going to be an interesting fight, but yet we haven't seen Jon Jones in heavyweight. We haven't seen Jon Jones in a couple of years, but he's still that dangerous coming in years after. Where we were talking about Jiri not 20 minutes ago, and we have a hard time to see Jiri come into the octagon in about 18 months to 24 months from now and be able to face a guy like Magomed. But here we're talking about Jon Jones, who's been gone out of the game for over 3 years now, moving up a division, and yet he's probably going to be the favorite walking into that fight.
Well, he's not now. He's the underdog
he's
now,
not now.
But I'm telling you, I'm going to pick him to win. I am picking him to win over Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, Curtis Blades, whoever you want to throw at him, because he's got the skill set to beat anybody, because he can do everything. He can do everything. Francis Ngannou, I don't think, is a better striker than Jon Jones. I think Jon Jones is a much cleaner stand-up fighter than Francis Ngannou. Ngannou has more power, but, I mean, who knows what kind of power Jon Jones has now that he's gigantic, right? So,
well, that's the thing.
But Jon Jones, I think, is a better striker. I think Francis will struggle to land his big shots just like he struggled to land his big shots against Cyril Gane. And how did he win the fight against Cyril Gane when he struggled to land his big shots? He took Cyril down. Those takedowns that Francis threw up against Cyril Gane, those might work against Cyril Gane. That's just not working against Jon Jones. His wrestling is way too good to get taken down from those sloppy takedowns from Francis Ngannou. I mean, he just kind of threw his body on top of him and hoped for the best. Those takedowns weren't the most technical Division I wrestling takedowns in that fight against Cyril Gane, right? Those are defendable takedowns if you've got better wrestling. You know, Cyril Gane is a good fighter, but he's not known for his wrestling. So Francis exposed that weakness. Jon Jones doesn't have that weakness. Jon Jones doesn't have weaknesses. Angelo is right. He needs to clean up his act outside of the octagon. But inside the octagon, it doesn't seem to matter. Jon Jones was talking about, when he fought DC the second time, he's like, man, I was doing cocaine all week, and I still kicked your ass. I mean, this is at the press conference. Jon Jones seems to party. And this is the thing about Jon Jones, that he has admitted that he would party very, very hard and not train leading up to the fight, so that mentally, if he lost, he could give himself the excuse of, well, I didn't really train, so whatever, right? That's kind of fucked up. That always has stuck with me when Jon Jones explained that, because it's abnormal. It's not something that you see in professional sports very often. Most of the time, guys prepare their asses off for the big moment. And they prepare, sometimes over-prepare, and it gets in their head. Jon Jones' attitude was, I'll train, whatever, but I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to party a lot, especially the weeks leading up to the fight. so that when I get into the fight, no big deal. If I win, cool. If I lose, well, I didn't really try hard, so no harm, no foul. Which is weird, right? And nobody's been able to do that. And you look at the success that he's had doing that. I think it gives him a mental edge in a way, partying. But also, if he was living a clean lifestyle and training and was a little bit more on the straight and narrow, well, first of all, he would have had more fights in the UFC because he wouldn't have been, in suspension or jail or whatever. But also, who knows how good he could have been. Maybe he could have been even better than what he has been, which is hard to fathom. I mean, how can you be better than perfect, right? How can you be better than undefeated? So it doesn't seem to matter what he does outside of the cage. It slows his progress down as far as getting back in the UFC because he gets suspended, but once he gets in there, everything else shuts away, and he's the best. It's just hard to root for him, right? It's hard to root for him when he's doing all this bad shit. But then when you see him in the cage, you're like, God damn, man, this guy's good. He's so good.
But you got to give him some credit. In the last year, man, he's been training. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of media on how he's training and really what he's doing. There hasn't been that much. But one thing is for sure is that over the last year, we haven't heard anything negative outside of the octagon with Jon Jones. He's been pretty much on the up and up. So there's a change in Jon Jones.
When was that thing with his wife in Vegas?
Yeah, but that was like a year, 2 years ago, dude. Wasn't that the whole incident? Like with the whole attack thing? That was 2 years ago, more or less. Like within the last year, Dave, Jones has been pretty.
AJ, this February of this year.
Where he struck his is that that thing you're talking about?
Yeah, that was February.
I thought it was later. So look,
he was in Las Vegas for some sort of MMA, or he was getting inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame, I think. Yeah, this was February of this year. He hasn't.
I mean, he hasn't done anything since February.
This was last year.
So AJ was right.
No, you were right. Late last year, there was body cam footage that emerged in February of this year. Sorry about that. You were right.
Yeah. So,
look, late last year, though. Again, like I think maybe September or October last year.
Yeah, I remember it was a while ago, but anyways, all to say is within this year, back to what AJ was saying, so edit out that whole part there. But still, the whole year has gone by, and we haven't heard anything of Jon Jones controversy. The guy is actually focusing in the gym. He's preparing. I'd love to see some footage. I'd like to see him really training, in every aspect of MMA. I mean, I've seen a couple of pictures of him, getting big, but there's not that much on Jon Jones. That's what's scaring me more than anything. It's like, is he going to be the beast of the beast, or is he going to be coming in and we're all going to be fooled? I hope it's the first thing I said, man, and Jon Jones comes out and really becomes a legend of all legends, and he can do it. If he's focused like he always is in some sense.
I want to see it. I love watching greatness. I want to see greatness. I want to see him try for the UFC heavyweight title against Francis Ngannou because it's such a mountain to climb. You know what? After the time off, all that stuff, I hate all that shit that he's done outside of the cage. It sucks, but I want to see him try because I want to see the greatest fighter of all time attempt, to elevate his legend. And beating Francis, being heavyweight champion, that would elevate that legend.
And I agree with you. I was going to say is that if there's one thing in boxing, it's the heavyweight division. Everybody remembers the heavyweight division. It's legendary status. Man, you say Muhammad Ali, everybody knows Muhammad. You say Mike Tyson, everybody remembers Mike Tyson. And not to take away from Sugar Ray or Roberto Duran, some of the greatest fighters. I mean, I could go all the way to Arturo Gatti here from Montreal against Mickey Ward, some of the best fights that ever happened. These guys are legendary, but there's no other greater champion than being in a heavyweight division. Being a heavyweight champion, you're sealed for life. Everybody remembers you forever. And that's what I'm saying. All the other divisions count, but they're not as great as the heavyweight. And that's what Jon Jones wants because he knows he's going to be the champion of all champions. But to be the greatest of all time, you need to get that heavyweight. Heavyweights are remembered forever.
Yeah, it definitely helps. That double champ status helps as well, especially in the UFC. Seems to be a trend over the past few years. A lot of people want to get that 2-division championship. Speaking of championships, the PFL championships are tomorrow night on pay-per-view, and it's a big card. Of course, you have Kayla Harrison and Larissa Pacheco for the women's lightweight championship. That's your main event. They're fighting for the $1 million prize in the finals of their tournament. So PFL has done tournaments over the past few months, and the finals are all taking place with a $1 million prize for each and every fight. So you have Brendan Loughnane against Bubba Jenkins for the featherweight title. You've got Ante Delia versus Mateus Scheffel for the heavyweight title. You have Sadibu Sai versus Delano Taylor for the welterweight title, and Rob Wilkinson versus Omari Akhmedov for the light heavyweight title. But the fight that I'm really concerned about is the lightweight championship of PFL. Montreal's own Canadian gangster Olivier Aubin-Mercier will be fighting Stevie Ray of Harlem Heat tomorrow night for PFL for $1 million. This is what Olivier Aubin was intending on doing when he decided not to re-sign in the UFC and go over to the PFL. He wanted that $1 million contract. I remember having him on the show a few years ago and talking about the PFL and $1 million, and his eyes kind of lit up saying, yeah, I think he was still in the UFC technically at the time.
He was in the UFC, yeah, he was still there.
He was talking about the PFL like, yeah, this is something that is interesting to me, because he wasn't making $1 million purses in the UFC, and this is a really good opportunity for a guy like him to make that big, big money. So I'm really hoping that Olivier Aubin-Mercier becomes a millionaire tomorrow, because he deserves it. He's had a great MMA career. He's a great guy, entertaining guy, represents Canada and Quebec and Montreal very, very well. You couldn't ask for a better representative than Olivier Aubin-Mercier, and it's his time. So I am really, really hoping for his victory and wishing him all the luck in the world for tomorrow. We like to stay impartial for the most part on this show, We give you our picks, but we're not rooting for anybody necessarily. Like, I pick Magomed over Yan. I think Magomed's going to beat him and all that stuff, but I still like Yan, and I got no problem with Yan, but I really want Olivier to beat Stevie Ray tomorrow. I really want to see him win. I just want it for Olivier. I really do. I think he deserves it. He's a great fighter. We've followed his career since
from the beginning. Man.
Yeah, I think I was at his first
from
pro
his
fight.
judo days, man.
He was fighting.
Think about it.
He was fighting for Ringside MMA. For his first pro fights, and I remember seeing him back then in his first pro fights here in Montreal for the local scene, and thinking, oh my God, who is this guy? He was just crushing the competition. He won his first pro fights here all in Montreal before joining the UFC in the first round in under 2 minutes. Like, he was crushing the competition, and I knew that he was going to be destined for big things. Just seeing his first couple fights as a pro, you were like, my God. And he was all jacked, and he's still super jacked, but like back then, he just seemed more professional and more in shape than everybody he was fighting and pretty much everybody on the card. Like, he stuck out on a lot of these local shows. Like, that guy is something. Like, that guy's working hard. You could tell he's a beast, and he was just crushing people. And then he went to the Ultimate Fighter, and he nearly won that. It came just short in the finals, getting to the finals of that tournament, but he's not going to come short in the finals of this PFL tournament. He's going to get the $1 million here. Olivier had a really solid career in the UFC and then decided to not sign another contract, go over to the PFL, and this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to get that $1 million. He's trying to win this tournament, and now he's in the finals. He's put himself in a perfect position to do it, and I'm wishing Olivier and Richard and the H2O team a lot of luck tomorrow night. PFL finals on pay-per-view tomorrow night. And Kayla Harrison, who's main eventing that card, isn't too happy that it's on pay-per-view because she's getting no pay-per-view points. None of the fighters are getting any pay-per-view points. Kayla's main eventing. She's kind of the star of the show. And she's saying, I don't know. I don't care this is on pay-per-view. I'm not getting any money from it. So there's that.
Listen,
but, she might be able to walk away with $1 million. They are giving away $1 million to a lot of fighters here. They're giving away, let's see, $6 million. So,
yeah,
not bad.
I mean,
not bad.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have put it on pay-per-view. It would have been great to watch this on, open. But listen,
Yeah.
I don't know how their numbers are going to work out. But all to say is this, just going back to Olivier Aubin-Mercier, I mean, if you want to listen to, some of the old shows of Ringside Report, try to, search for the Olivier Aubin, times that were at TSN talking. I mean, that was a crazy, crazy interview. It was. I listened to it sometimes, and I'm like, holy shit, man. It was just nuts. I mean, we got Olivier smashed with Uncle Benny's wine. He was supposed to fight. He brought up PFL before even anything of PFL was in anyone's mind. We were talking about it.
Yeah,
about
he
the
brought
$1
it
million
up, I think,
and all this kind of stuff. He brought it up. So we were one of the first shows kind of to expose it where Olivier wanted to go. Super funny show. So if you have a chance, go back in time, take a look at our archives and listen to that show. Super funny. And actually, it was the beginning of Ringside to really get more on the video part, because we were just audio at that part. We're on radio and whatnot. But a lot of people wanted to see what the hell we were doing on the show, because we were doing all kinds of crazy shit. We were like shooting air guns, eating pizza, drinking, doing Marco taking off his shirt. It was all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was the beginning where people were like, hey, can you take videos of you guys, on the show to see what you guys look like and what you do? And that's where it all the beginning of it kind of started there, and where we ended up putting it on YouTube.
Kind of.
And we got crazy amount of hits on the Danny Brook page at that point, because it was really on Danny Brook that I was putting those short clips. But you can find all those videos with the Olivier Aubin-Mercier on the Danny Brook.
Oh my
you should
God.
put it on the Ringside.
Right.
Dude, it's so funny.
Cool.
But all
you
to
can
say is
also
this.
go
I just
back
want
and
to say one
listen to
last
the
thing.
show in our archives as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is that I was going to say is with Olivier Aubin-Mercier, when he got to Team Canada, the guy was so cool. when we were watching the finals, I was with Olivier at a bar up on Saint Laurent here in Montreal. We were watching on a big screen with all his friends, and we were going to find out if Olivier won, for Team Canada.
Yeah.
And, and I was telling him, I'm like, Olivier, obviously, it was already filmed and everything. He knew the result, but he never let it out, man. That's
Really?
how, I was bothering him. Yeah, I was bothering him the whole night. I'm like, Olivier, what happened? Did you win? Keep watching, Anthony. Just keep watching. I'm like, come on, what happened, man? And it was crazy, man. But what a great time. Team Canada versus Team Australia. So many fantastic guys that came out of here, including Elias Theodorou, who passed away. Rest in peace. Great fighter. It was just good chemistry, man, with that team. It was incredible. And that's where I got to meet Olivier on a more on a personal level. And real cool guy. And I hope he wins the $1 million, because if anybody deserves it, this guy does.
Yeah,
and you know what?
it.
It's good for Montreal. And I think he can do it. I think he can pull it off.
Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for him. Hoping that Olivier will big W and the $1 million check from the PFL tomorrow. What an amazing, amazing run he's had in the PFL, undefeated. And now he's going for that big, big money. So hoping he gets it. Everybody cheering him on. Angelo says, let's go OAM. Definitely going for that Canadian gangster. Let's go. And we are going to go, because that's the end of the show here tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right after a SmackDown, to talk about WWE's Survivor Series going down on Saturday. So Johnny North and I will be previewing Survivor Series. We'll also be talking about AEW Dynamite and everything that's happening in AEW world. Everything WWE, everything AEW, tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, Saturday night, right after Survivor Series, we'll be doing the Survivor Series post-show, reviewing the show, giving you the score on 10 for the pay-per-view and our match of the night at Survivor Series War Games. All right. And that's it. Shout out to all the members of the team. I'm seeing Angelo in the chat tonight. And everybody else who renewed their membership, thank you. Appreciate you very much. Join.ringsidereport.net if you are not a member yet. And please subscribe. If you have not subscribed to the channel, subscribe right now, and you will get 1 month of good luck from Dr. Dave. Okay? I'm a doctor that hands out good luck. Subscribe right now. You get a month of good luck from me, sincerely, to you. How about it? And that is Ringside Report MMA's guarantee right here on the Ringside Report Network.
Please join in and give your support to Ringside Report Network. We've been providing expert coverage and commentary on both pro wrestling and MMA for over 15 years. Go to ringsidereport.net/support to find out more ways to support the channel.